to reason. Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion, it's gotta go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Tracie Harris. And everything you need to know about the show should be found on the website, www.atheist-experience.com. And now let's start the show. Hey! Seriously, though. As you may have heard, this is Tracie and I are going to be the guinea pigs in the very first show that unfortunately has been cut down to an hour. And so we're trying to abridge the announcements going forward, and hopefully everybody knows enough about the show already. So we can start lining up those calls. And what do we got going on today?
Well,
What?
I had done a conversation about intercessory prayer.
Oh, sure.
Not really.
I was really. You don't really have to talk.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But I don't think they've queued up the calls yet. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just somebody had asked about a quote that I had put on a Facebook, and it said, "Give a man a fish, and he'll eat for a day. Give a man religion, and he'll starve to death praying for a fish."
Right.
And so, everybody started commenting and giving their own little twist on different quotes like that, just goofy things. And someone said the quote was, illustrated a misunderstanding of prayer and what prayer is about. And they were saying that prayer is about an internal change and not really any, to try to portray it as something that represents, a real wish for a material change is a
so
misunderstanding.
much for moving mountains with faith the size of a grain of mustard.
But what I did is I went online because I don't generally like to portray, like to say this is what people believe. I like to go and get what they believe and provide it. So I went online and I did a search for prayer plus testimonials and found loads of people saying, financial assistance, physical healing, just started loading the links and saying, here you go, here you go, here you go.
Yeah, what a surprise.
This is what the people praying are saying about it. And, go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, people believe so many different things about prayer that, people believe so many different things about everything that I always kind of wince when somebody says, that's not what people were that's not what it really means. Because what it really means is open to interpretation.
Right.
And it's like that lady who called for the last two shows in a row and kept saying that she knew stuff because she had personal experience, and and those other people who interpret the Bible their way are just wrong, and trying to present herself as like the more open-minded one who understands the real interpretation of it, when she's just the opposite side of what they're doing.
Exactly. And I came up with an analogy for. The idea. I think the idea came up that, this helps people because it gives them hope.
That's not Russell Glasser.
Helps people because it gives them hope, and it gives them something positive in their life, and that the idea that something is going to help them. And I said, well, let's just say that I live in a city and I take an ad out in the local paper and I say that I'm a businessman with a load of experience, I'm retired, and I'm so touched by the economy right now and what's going on and all these people losing their jobs that I'm willing to, for free, help anybody find a job based on my connections and my experience with the economy and with business in the town. And all you have to do is, I live in a house outside the city, you have to drive an hour, come and meet with me, talk to me for 30 minutes, and then drive back, give me your resume, a vitae, whatever you've got, and I will then use that to try and hook you up with some of my connections, get you work. So a reporter hears about this and says, wow, what a nice thing to do. Just the goodness of your heart, help people out because you care. Comes down and says, how does this work? And I say, well, they come down, they bring me the resume, they talk to me for 30 minutes, and then they leave. And he's like, and then what do you do? Do you meet contacts? And I say, no, I just take their stuff and throw it in the garbage. And he said, and then what do you do? Do you meet contacts? And I say, no, 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 I just take their stuff and throw it in the garbage. And he said, and then what do you do? Do you meet contacts? And I say, no, 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 I just take their stuff and throw it in the garbage. And he's like, well, you don't do anything? No, I just throw it away. I don't do anything. But I like to think that I'm giving these people hope. Because they believe when they leave that there's somebody helping them, somebody that has the strings that they can pull to get this person a job, that you can that they go away feeling like they've got that extra help to get a job now. And who would think that I'm anything but an ass for doing such a thing? And even if it's just 2.5 hours of someone's time, does it? It's a cruel thing. It's a
yeah. I mean, there's a way in which that does make people feel better and might improve their day somewhat. And the value of wasting somebody's time, you could say, is pretty small. And that's exactly the sort of arguments that you see for religion.
Right. But who would defend that?
Yeah.
If it was really being done to someone, you would think it was a cruel thing to do.
But there is a lot of time wasting that goes on with people who believe in the supernatural, like those people who are psychic consultants for detectives, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they come in, and apparently some number of policemen actually believe that they are capable of discovering stuff about the case that nobody else knows. And it's like, well, what's the harm? It's like, well, you're taking up police resources that could be used to solve the freaking case.
But really, when you think of, I was talking with somebody earlier about the idea of project management and using the prayer, not just in terms of maybe somebody spending 20, 30 minutes a night, but using the concept of man hours, where you just take all the combined hours that are put in by people to do this, like prayer groups, prayer circles, and people that are praying independently, blah, 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 and you put all that together and you say how many man hours are really wasted every year on people doing this instead of, when you're using an intercessory prayer where you're actually asking for assistance with something, this is a situation where you could be using that time to improve your situation, because that's exactly what you're trying to do with the prayer. And so that 20 or 30 minutes put forward as an effort to help you in some way could literally be put in really helping you. It could be another 30 minutes on Monster.com looking for a job, or another 30 minutes boning up your resume, or another, you know what I mean? It's
right.
That's significant when you're talking about 30 minutes a night for one person. But when you start adding up like millions of people, it's a huge, huge wasted effort.
Exactly. I mean, it's something that economists take very seriously as something that drains the economy when, or efficiency experts come into the office and they say stuff like, oh, look, if you move the copier over here, then everybody would save 10 seconds every day going back and forth to the copier.
Sure.
So I was going to mention that there is actually a new phone number, so if you have the old phone number saved, then you'd better take a note of it. Of course, as soon as it came up on the screen, full lines.
Yeah, exactly.
We're actually in a different studio today. It's a place where we were years and years ago, and it's nice and big and cavernous. You guys can't see it. It looks about the same, but it's pretty cool. Barely makes up for our shortened time span. And this is going to be the one and only time that I'm going to go ahead and say this number on camera. So use it responsibly. It's 512-472-2255. So you out-of-towners, make a note of it, and of course only call when the show is going on. So we do have full lines, but our diligent screeners are busy doing their job, so I don't know who they are yet. So do you have anything else to say on intercessory prayer?
Yeah, just that I added to my analogy the idea that churches actually will charge people by way of promoting tithing and saying that people have to tithe as part of their memberships, basically, so that when you join the church,
waste money as well as time.
So what if I, in addition to throwing out their resume, charged them for the service?
Oh, yeah.
And then I said, well, what about churches that teach that, for example, you can pray for your child to be healed, but you can't take them to a doctor? So what if, in addition to me taking these people's resumes, I said, you have to give me your money and you can't independently seek a job? And then I threw their resume in the trash. Yeah, I mean, it just gets worse.
It just occurred to me, this is not a hypothetical scenario, because my fiance has been looking for a job, and she came across an ad a few weeks ago, which said, she responded to it on Craigslist, and then she was immediately got a response saying, how soon can you interview? So she schedules an interview for the next day. She's all enthusiastic and excited. Oh, I got an interview. That was so easy. And then the interview that she signs on to turns out to be a chat room, or give the appearance of a chat room with like 200 people in it. And a bunch of prefab questions. And we tried typing stuff into the chat room, and, you weren't actually talking to these people. But it was like recruiters.com, where they were apparently recruiting other recruiters. So I said, this is an MLM scam. Close the page.
Wow.
And then and then for several days, she got, like, lots and lots of constant messages saying, we still are able to interview you. Why don't you get back in touch with us? Even after she mentioned that she was not interested in this. And it just makes me so furious, because a financial scam is one thing, but to take advantage of people who are already down on their luck looking for a job at the moment is just disgusting.
I absolutely agree.
We have an actual call.
Yes, we do.
Shall we go to it?
Do it.
Okay. One thing I didn't mention in my new abridged announcements is that we're still going to Threadgills after the show if you're local to Austin, but because the show is shorter, dinner is sooner. And Hulk mad. Sorry, we just turned green for people who are listening at home. But yeah, anyway, show up at like 6 instead of 6:30 now. Still Threadgills, right after the show. Daniel in Los Angeles.
Hello.
What?
Hello.
Hello.
Is it Dan?
Hi.
I have a question.
Okay.
How should I tell my parents I'm an atheist?
How old are you?
13.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have an urge to look up to my left because we've got a speaker up there, and it sounds like the voice of God coming down at us. You're 13,
and
so you're going to be living in your house for another 5 years at least, probably.
Mm-hmm.
What are your parents like?
Really religious.
Okay.
Like what does really religious mean in your house?
Like, we go to church every Sunday, right? And my mom's a Catholic and my dad's a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
How do they get along?
I don't know, but they do somehow.
If I were in that situation, I'd be tempted to stir up trouble and identify the key points of where they differ on their religion and ask, hey, Mom, how do you feel about this? But I don't know if that's actually good advice.
Well, it's weird because on the one hand, I mean, if they're able to be respectful of one another with those sorts of differences standing between them,
that's a good point.
Then maybe what is okay? You know these people. You've lived with them all your life. What do you anticipate as a realistic reaction to this news?
Are you thinking?
Yes.
So you come forward, you Mom and Dad, I don't believe in God. What do you think they would react like based on what you know about them?
Because I used to believe in God, until I watched your show, and then I'm like, oh, God doesn't exist.
Okay.
And I was the one that went to church the most.
But I'm still not getting a feel for what you think they would react like.
Oh, they would probably smack me or something.
Well, I mean, okay, the question comes down to, are they going to find out sooner or later anyway? Because if it turns out they're going to find out, and 5 years of living with them is a pretty long time, and as I've discovered, the longer people remain atheists, the more outspoken they get, and that makes it harder and harder to...
How are they raising you right now, Daniel? I mean, where do you go to church? How do you fit into this JW Catholic situation?
You don't know where you go to church?
Do you go to church, or do you, I mean, how do they? Okay, how do they raise you?
Okay, they take me I'm sorry, a little shy.
Okay. Do they take you to a Catholic church?
Or are you going to
Yeah.
a temple?
Like, we don't go to Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
Okay, so both of them go to a Catholic church?
Uh-huh.
Okay. There's never an easy answer.
If
I
you
don't know how to answer
honestly
this.
think that they would hit you, I would say don't say anything. I mean, I
Okay.
would never advise somebody to come forward with anything
Put
if
themselves
they
in
really
danger.
thought that they would be violent with you.
Unless they hit you anyway, routinely. I mean, then it's just another thing that's going to set them off.
Yeah, because right now you have to keep in mind that at 13 you're subject to these people.
It's true.
I mean, they have control over you, and they can force you to go to a church. They can make your life a living hell. You can have the next 5 years of hell with parents who are just breathing down your neck and giving you a hard time. And we've actually heard from people who have been thrown out of their houses over this issue.
Right. The good news, though, is it gets better. 5 years
Yeah.
seems like a long time when you're 13
Right.
because that's almost half your life. But, by the time you get to 18 and beyond and you're kind of free of your parents' influence, maybe you just won't look back.
And that's true. I mean, it does seem like a long time, but in some situations, it's better to just go through the motions. Don't say anything. Don't talk about it. Just kind of, deal with what you have to deal with to get through it. And then once you're out of the house,
Okay, we're going to have to drop
Yeah.
because there's a lot of noise on
but
the
once you're
line.
out of the house, yeah, you've got a long life ahead of you, and you can pretty well do whatever you need to do at that point without having somebody else be in control of your living situation.
Right. Okay, well, I hope that helps somewhat. And like I said, we never really, don't take our advice as gospel, so to
Right.
speak. But let's keep it moving. Let's get to Chris, also in Los Angeles. Are you there? Chris.
Hello?
Hi, Chris.
You're on the air.
Hey. Hey, thanks for taking my call. I have
Sure.
a question that's kind of bugging me. It relates to the sincerity of religious leaders, like pastors, religious writers, creationists, apologists, particularly the latter.
Okay.
If I could share with you maybe a couple of my observations and then hear what you have to say.
Sure. I think I'm
like,
going to
if you
agree
look
with
at a
what
guy
you
like,
say, though.
Kent Hovind, for instance.
Yeah.
I think, and all of his, the ice comet entered the atmosphere and split apart and landed on the poles, and that's why we have polar ice caps kind of thing.
You know where Kent
I
Hovind
think
is
he's
right now, right?
Intellectually honest, as far as following the evidence wherever it goes.
Can he hear you?
But I do give him credit for at least believing the things that he says. I think that he honestly thinks the Bible is the perfect word of God and whatnot.
You know where Kent Hovind is right now?
Yeah, he's in jail.
Right, for tax evasion. So, I mean,
Yeah.
if it comes to a question of his honesty, there's a data point right there.
Well, like I said, the times I've heard him talk, it seems to me like he at least believes that the basic things that he says. And you could disagree with that. But I look at another guy like David Berlinski. Like I heard him recently. He had a debate with Christopher Hitchens. I think it last month. And this guy, he's clearly smarter than a guy like Ken Hovind. And I just can't take him seriously for the arguments he's making. I mean, he claims to be an agnostic. He's
Right,
got a
yeah,
PhD in mathematics, I think. And he's just spouting the same old, creationist, intelligent design garbage that, has been refuted so many times. The Holocaust was, as a result of Darwinism. And, it's like I have a feeling like he's on the payroll of the Discovery Institute. Anyway, I just wanted to hear what your comments were about, how people in this category are, how sincere they're actually being. And maybe I'll listen to your answer off the air if that's okay.
Sounds great.
All right, thanks.
See you. Do you want to go first?
No,
or-
go ahead.
Okay. Here's what I think. There is a certain mindset that people can get into when they're public debaters a lot, which is where it's not so much that they're lying, but as they just don't care about the distinction between lying and telling the truth. I mean, as long as something makes a point that appears to be in their favor and it appears to score rhetorical points, it feels good and true to them, and I think they work themselves into a state of mind where if it feels like the right thing to say, then they believe that it's actually true.
Yeah.
There was an example I had in mind, but it just slipped right out. Do you have anything else to add to that?
I mean, I can
the
understand the confusion because, for example, I was really young and a teenager when I was swayed by Josh McDowell's apologetics, which, I look at it now and I just laugh. Yes, I'm like, okay, I'm so embarrassed, but I was a kid. So I look at that and I say, though, that the amount of information that the man presents means that the information that he doesn't present, he's aware of.
You think?
Yeah. So when you know that there's data that impacts your argument in a way that would be negative, and you withhold that data, and you only present the data that makes your case, I mean, you have to know what you're doing. That's not an unconscious decision.
Ray Comfort has a blog which is mobbed with atheists, and he reacts to them. And for instance, he loves to say the quote about, he loves to quote mine Einstein to make it look like Einstein believed in his God.
Right.
And yet I see people all the time posting responding quotes saying things like, it was a lie what you heard about my religion, I do not believe in a personal God, and stuff like that. Einstein seemed to use God a lot in the poetic sense.
Sure.
And Ray responds to those comments, so it's not like he doesn't see them.
Right.
But I feel like he might have a very selective memory.
It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and that also, though, is a little bit different than preparing a presentation, I think, where you've got to be selecting information and deleting certain information. And
yeah, but I mean, I go through that too when I'm arguing with somebody and doing background research. I come across things that don't support my case, and I wouldn't lie about them, but I would not focus on them.
Right, but here's a good example. Here's an example. Like Josh McDowell, one of the things he talks about is the high level of accurate copying of.
Right.
Okay, you're already laughing. Right, of the texts that are used in the current Bible.
That doesn't matter to me so much, even if it is true.
But I mean, it's part of his argument. But what I'm saying is, there is a certain time frame where there was fairly good copies.
Right.
But there's a whole big time frame where there wasn't. That precedes that.
And he skips that?
Right. So he's giving the impression that these are reliably copied.
Yes.
And as if they were, but that point makes no difference if they're not reliably copied continuously from point A to point B.
What I was just remembering was something that stuck out in my mind after I went to church with Matt some years ago, and the pastor.
I went with you guys once.
I know you went with us once. I think this was a different occasion, and the pastor told like a personal story which sounded very glib. It sounded really set up like it was designed to make a point. It sounded like an Aesop's fable, and he was telling it like, this is something that really happened to me. I was out on I used to work out and hike and stuff, and this guy was kind of skinny, and it's like, and then I was helpless and I was without God this one time, and he tells this whole story, and I'm like, I don't think that really happened to him. I just had this
it was a preacher story
sense about him.
Yeah.
And then I went to a Christian friend of mine and I said, do you think that pastors make this stuff up and pass it on? And he says, oh yeah, that's really common.
It's called a preacher story.
There's books of sermons where they encourage you to own the story and make it their own. And I was like, don't you think that's kind of lying? And he said, well, no, I mean, it's just a storytelling technique. And that's what I'm saying about the honesty. It's like, they get into a state of mind where they may be lying, but the distinction between truth and fiction doesn't matter so much to them.
Yeah, I would agree that it gets muddled.
Right. Okay, moving along. Already dropped him. Line 2 would be Josh in Newton, Kansas.
You're on the air.
Hi there.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
This is crazy. I've actually watched you guys for a long time now.
Are you in Kansas?
Yes.
Okay.
Here where I live, they're actually kind of I guess you'd call it kind of like a Sunday school kind of thing, but it happens, during the weekday during school. And me and my wife are both atheists, and they have you sign this waiver, and it allows your kid to kind of go off campus and go to this, I guess you'd say, churchy kind of thing, and they do the arts and crafts, and they have fun and whatnot. That's what the problem I had with, but being an atheist, I'd rather not sign it. I'd rather her not go, but at the same time, I would hate to have her
resent you.
Being and being the one or two kids who are stuck in the classroom, by themselves, kind of drawing. And
2 years old.
It kind of sucks that it's so ingrained in this society that they are the outcasts.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, you could do something like go to the ACLU about this, but it's like, do you want to be that one parent who stirs stuff up?
But it sounds like what you're saying is it's an extracurricular thing that they're saying that you can opt in or out of.
Yeah.
And it's not a public. I'm guessing this isn't a public school because your daughter's only 2 years old, so this is like a preschool.
Well, no. She's not in school yet, but it's the school that she would more likely go to.
Okay.
Does this?
Got it.
I mean, I did it, but I think I was like, I don't know, third, fourth grade. But it's a weekly thing, and I knew kids who were just in the classroom and who they never win, and I never really knew why. And I now kind of do, but it sucks to think that she would be the one sitting in class all by herself while her friends go out and have fun and this and that.
As a parent, you're still the biggest influence in her life, even if she's without. Even if she's outside the home and spending a lot of time with friends and picking up peer pressure, talking to her directly about stuff actually goes a long way. So the approach that I always took with my son was basically, I live in Texas, but of course it's a pretty liberal part of Texas. But still, there are a lot of religious people in Ben's schools. And what I always did was make sure not to hide that stuff. In fact, I went out of my way to read the Bible to him along with the other fictional stories that I read when he was a little kid. And
I can't wait to do that.
Yeah. Or tell it in a silly way, sort of embellish the story. And as he got older, explain to him to the best of my abilities, look, you're going to be meeting a lot of people who really believe this stuff and take this seriously, and here's what they think, and here's what we think, and, I'm not telling you what to think, I'm just saying that's the way things are. And I think as you go along, if you give your input and feedback, maybe she won't have such a great time at those things. Maybe she'll come back and say, those people are just talking about God and it's really boring, and then you say, I agree, and then you look like the good guy.
Yeah. Well, I I hate being the one that has to be the guy to tell her that, no, all your friends are wrong. We're right, they're wrong. It's a, I guess you'd say, touchy subject.
But if you think about it, even religious parents are doing that, right? If I'm raising my kid Christian, I'm basically saying your Hindu friends are wrong, or your Muslim friends would be wrong, or anybody else that doesn't. Even if you're raising them fundamentalist, you're saying your Catholic friends are wrong.
Right. And you notice, atheists are the only ones I ever hear who feel like they have this dilemma. I don't want to be just telling my kid exactly what to think, and Christians are like, they damn well better believe what I think.
Yeah.
I think a certain amount of that is inevitable when you're parenting because, explaining why you don't run out in the street when a car's coming only goes so far when instead of just saying, get out of the street. But I think that atheist parents tend to be pretty thoughtful about this, and I think that it's not that hard to actually express what everybody's thinking and give everything a fair shake, and still get across what your views are while still being open to the possibility that they could decide differently when they get older, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's also a big point that, it's probably I don't know if it would be easier, but it'd probably be a lot easier to say, well, you know, I'm a theist converting to atheism than an atheist converting to theism.
Right.
Especially for a kid, though. Well, thank you very much, guys, and it's awesome calling in. This is my first one.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye.
It looks like we have somebody saying God must exist on line 3, so I think we should skip ahead to that
let's
one,
take
don't
it.
you? This is Shaun in Fresno. Are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
You're on the air.
All right, I recently attended one of Dr. Frank Turek's seminars. I don't know if you know who that guy is, but he's author of the book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist.
I, in fact, was invited to attend one of his talks, and I wound up being busy. But yeah, I'm familiar with him.
So I wanted to present you guys with his moral argument and see how you guys respond to it.
Is this, are you playing devil's advocate here, or is this something you think is true?
I'm really not sure about it.
Okay.
I'm an agnostic, so that's why I want to hear your side of it.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Mother Teresa was morally right, and Hitler was morally wrong. There's certain moral objectives that exist. It's wrong to kill Jews. It's wrong to rape people. And if these moral objectives exist, a God has to exist. If there's no God, then it's just your opinion versus, say, Hitler's opinion or Bin Laden's opinion. If there's no God, everything's permitted. So a God has to exist for these moral objectives to exist.
And I assume that he thinks the God in particular that exists is the God of the Old and New Testaments, right?
Judeo-Christian God, yes.
Yes. Do you want...
I guess I'm wondering
I'm
how
looking forward to
did
this.
we get to God has to author these things? Like why must a God be the source of a moral objective? Does he explain that leap? Like how does he get to that? I didn't catch that part.
I don't know, and that's why I don't really accept it.
Let me get back to...
I think he's saying... Sorry, go ahead.
Let me get back to something that Jeff D. and I have been harping on for a number of years since we discovered this cool Plato dialogue called Euthyphro. Are you familiar with it?
No,
I know
I'm not.
you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
You should check it out. It's a dialogue by Socrates where Socrates asks a character who's very convinced that he did the right thing because it's good in the eyes of God. Socrates says, well, are good things good in the eyes of God because they're good, or does God hold things as good? Am I messing this up?
Basically, the question is,
Yes.
is God telling us what is good, and it's good whether God tells us or not?
Does God tell us to do things because they're good, or are things
Good because God said
tells
to do
us
them.
to do them?
So is anything God says good, which means that if God says to rape, then rape is good?
Right. The thing about this objective morality argument is that it claims that God is beyond the subjective, whereas really it's an interesting question. Like if God says that killing 6 million Jews is wrong, does he have to say that? I mean, could he, in an alternate universe, have said, killing 6 million Jews is just peachy, I'm all for it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, just like in the Old Testament, where he says to kill the Amalekite children. Okay?
Exactly. God says
was
some
it
pretty
right
weird
because
stuff
God
in
said
the
to
Old
do
Testament.
it? You know, when God said to do that, was it right? Because God said it. So is genocide correct sometimes if God says do it and you don't know really why and you just go do it? I mean, what makes it right about God saying it?
Okay, I understand what you're saying. What he's saying is atheism can't provide a reason for why these moral objectives exist. He's saying that
what we're saying is even if that
Sorry, go ahead.
what we're saying is even if that turns out to be true, religion can't either.
Right, religion
can only
offering it.
make people agree to follow a particular set of rules, but that particular set of rules requires you that if you hear the voice of God in your head saying, go kill your son, then the right thing to do is say, okay, until further notice. Because that proves that you're a good and faithful servant. Now, I feel kind of icky when I hear about that moral statement, and that makes me, concerned that the idea that the God is telling you everything is right could open the way to doing some actually morally reprehensible things without really understanding why, but just thinking it's right because the God tells you to.
Yeah, but you can actually, I mean, to answer your question a little bit more thoroughly, and this is not necessarily an atheist perspective so much as just like my personal perspective, is that if you look at biology, there are some animals that are social animals, there are some animals that are not social animals. You don't see, you see the rise of morality in social animals. And if you look up, there's an experiment that might interest you. You might look up Google like silver fox experiment. And what it is they took an asocial, very aggressive animal, and they bred for passivity until they got a group of these animals that were social. They wagged their tails, they barked, they wanted to interact with other animals and also other people. They weren't as aggressive, they were friendly. And they had this sort of capacity to interact with others in a way that was good instead of a way that was aggressive and threatening. So you can see the rise of interaction with others that is more positive and less threatening and less aggressive and more social, which is really where morality is coming from. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a demonstration of how morality is biologically driven.
Right.
Does that help at all?
I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. It does. I see what you're saying. These moral objectives exist, but you can't get from that to God exists. And there is based on what you're saying, there is an explanation of how morals exist that isn't divine. So thanks a lot. And also, if you guys ever got a chance to go to one of Dr. Turek's seminars, that'd be really cool. That'd be like Darth Vader versus.
I mean, I would listen to it and blog about it, but I'd be kind of hesitant to stir up stuff among a group of hostile church people.
Well, that's exactly what I did. It was me challenging him in front of 300 theists, and I've never been in a situation like that.
Walked out with your skin intact.
I have some friends who've done it.
Thanks for the help.
Yeah,
right,
hats off to you for doing that. That's brave.
My shorthand advice is definitely check out the Euthropho. That's EUTHRYPHO.
PHRO.
Dialogue.
Right?
Yeah, I said that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. Or if you want the shorthand of the dialogue, go to ironchariots.org and look up Euthropho and that. And also, I just remembered that Matt did a lecture on the superiority of secular morality a few weeks ago, and it is now available as video via the blog atheistexperience.com. And it's only a few weeks old, so or less than that even. So check that out too. And we have 23 minutes left in the show, and here goes Francisco in Puerto Rico.
Hi, Francisco.
Hello?
You're on the air.
Hi.
Oh, hi. I'm a little nervous, guys, so I'll try to say fast and stuff.
Don't worry.
Yeah, take
and
your
if you
time.
say it fast, then you might get more nervous. So.
Oh, okay.
So chill out.
So I want to talk to you about 3 years ago, the governor that was in Puerto Rico. He passed a law, something about the first 15 minutes of the first class, when you go into school, were supposed to be something about meditation. And most of the teachers took that as a time to spread the word of God and stuff, and even pray in the class. And most after he wasn't elected on the next election, most of the people took that thing out. And so when they picked a new governor, he actually did put the same thing, but with a different name. I think it was reflection or something. And now we're actually doing it. My health teacher made us pray the first day we went to class, and they put all the students pray on every time they take the exam. And even my math teacher puts every day, puts PowerPoints on the projector and saying things about Jesus Christ and how good he was.
I can see how that's way more important than using the time to, teach you math.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
It's exactly what you were saying before about how many man-hours are wasted spread across all the people who have to put up with that.
Wow. So, I mean, what do the students think, Rico? Or what's it's a Francisco? I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong.
Yeah.
It's okay. Well, over here, people in my school, I think I'm the only atheist, so I don't try to even get on the argument because I already tried that once. But people didn't really even care. They just cared about what they got teached on every Sunday, and that's what they cared. I mean, they don't care if they're praying, and they don't care if they're like saying Jesus Christ is their savior, and you're going to hell, and all those things. They don't really care.
So what is the what's the foundation of the law there regarding any kind of a separation?
Well, technically there is no separation over here because that's one of the most fundamental things I actually am sort of mad about, because over here the ACLU doesn't even care about any of those things.
Well, I mean, they are the American Civil Liberties Union.
Yeah, like they're supposed to protect the things like the separation of church and state.
And you'll have to forgive me, Francisco, but I mean, Puerto Rico it's like a held territory, correct?
Yes, it's
right.
Yeah, it's basically like a territory of the United States, but we're not part of the United States, but we're just like a territory. It's like a colony.
That's why I was kind of wondering, because I don't think you're under the U.S. Constitution. I was wondering what is the foundation of the law there? Do you have your own constitution? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have our own constitution. It was signed on, I think it was 1952.
Okay.
And it regulates on Section 3 that we have a separation of church and state.
Wow. And still this is happening in your schools?
Yep.
Wow.
It's incredible.
That is amazing.
Move?
I know.
And the thing is that the most that actually intrigues me that is they actually put it in a way like to cover it up, like say, oh, this is 15 minutes to meditate or just think about things.
Sure.
But the teachers mostly take that wording as like, oh, now you can talk about religion and spread the word and stuff.
Wow.
That's terrible.
I mean, they used to do the moment of silence when I was in school, and that was sort of the euphemism for they weren't allowed to pray, so they would do a moment of silence. But nobody, I mean, boy, you didn't inject religion into that moment of silence, ever. So that's, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's shocking. I don't know what can be done about it.
I've always felt that the moment of silence was just basically a deliberate gateway drug.
I think you're right.
Trying to slip something in there, and they used...
Well, it was the response to you can't pray in school anymore, so we'll have this moment of silence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
For praying.
For if you want to pray, you can.
Right.
And so...
Wow.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. That's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's been actually I've even have thought of getting the guts and actually go to the principal and say, hey, he's not supposed to be doing this. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I should even be doing that because since my school is almost full of religion nuts and stuff.
What year are you? What year are you in?
Oh, I'm about to graduate next year.
Oh, okay.
Maybe wait till next year, right before you graduate. I don't know. Yeah. That's rough. I mean,
or how about right after you graduate?
There you go.
I would, You
might want to, one thing that you could do that's kind of interesting, I tell a lot of times when young people are in a situation where they can't really say what they'd like to say, I tell them, why don't you start up an anonymous blog and really start posting this? Because sometimes this information is useful or, interesting to other people. So maybe,
that's true.
Maybe start getting the word out. Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm sorry.
No.
In fact, there is a few groups over here in Puerto Rico. I just found out a year ago that there's actually some secular atheist groups on Facebook, and there are a few blogs and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so I've gotten in touch with them, so it's pretty cool. But they're not they're more like a little bit shut down for a while. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, go find some people to hang out with, and it won't be quite so annoying.
Well, and sometimes when you get to college, you can do that too.
College,
a lot of times colleges have free thought groups or,
Right.
Yeah.
You've applied by now, I assume?
Well, I haven't applied, but I just joined the group and talked with a few people.
He's up to college.
He meant to college, but yeah.
Oh, okay. You mean the college show? Well, I've been to some, but not a lot.
Okay.
Just sometimes in political schemes that I sometimes go with. and I see some people that almost think like me, and I talk with them and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you may not be able to do anything legally, but I mean, that doesn't mean you have to put up.
Go and study law.
Yeah, good. There you go. There you go.
Become a lawyer in Puerto Rico.
Well, I'm actually thinking of studying biology, so I can just go like, and if they still have that law, and I can just go to the high school and just go like, hey, they teach you that. Well, I'm not going to give you those 15 minutes, and I'm just going to teach you about evolution.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I hope you keep your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of harsh, but it's just funny in sort of way.
Right. Okay, well, thanks for calling.
Okay,
and good luck.
Oh.
And let's see, since we have 15 minutes left, I will plug again that after the show, as always, we will be going to Threadgill's just a little bit earlier. So come on over. And next we have Jason in Tennessee.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I got a quick question. It was a CNN documentary, Right on the Edge. It was following young conservatives. Mm-hmm. And the interesting part of the whole show was that they had a right-wing Christian group, or particularly one female from California, that's trying to go around and shut down Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, you know, she's trying to film them and catch them in awkward positions and things like that, so she can either shut them down or get people fired. But my question is, at the end of it, she's like, praise Jesus and things like that. How do you think that they justify bearing false witness in the end?
I think we touched on that earlier. It was basically, they get in a mindset where they do not really care or do not think that much about the distinction between reality and falsehood. Christine O'Donnell is an awesome example, okay? Christine O'Donnell, I forget what state, Delaware, right?
I don't.
Yeah.
So she's been coming out and she's been saying, or in the past, Bill Maher has been playing these great clips of her saying stuff like, oh, I used to be a witch and there was a satanic altar with some blood, and then she said, I was a Hare Krishna for a while. And it's like, you were not all those things. And I saw an analysis by another Christian, the guy who does the Slacktivist blog, which I love for its Left Behind review, where he was saying, I understand why she's coming out and saying she's a Hare Krishna. That sounds kind of random, and the stuff she says completely betrays that she hasn't the first idea what those guys actually believe. But the thing about Hare Krishna is it's a good stand-in religion because it's so weird. It's just so, you know, it's just such a random thing that it is a stand-in for all the other stuff that, you know, for everything else. It's like, hey, I know so much. I was even a Hare Krishna. It's like a car salesman coming to you and saying, hey, I've driven every other car on the market, and this is absolutely the best. It's a confidence technique.
Well, the other thing on just Christine O'Donnell, though, that the media hasn't brought up is if you're changing religions that much, wouldn't that mean you have maybe some kind of emotional defect or psychological defect?
You could, I mean, it could be the case that you're just admitting that you're wrong.
I have
but
no idea.
Not in this case, I don't think.
Yeah, that woman's stupidity is like as deep as
legendary.
an ocean.
And by the way,
it's crazy.
Unlike many races where one candidate is clearly very stupid, she's actually losing by a lot. So I have to enjoy that when it happens, because too often the stupid candidate seems to be winning.
Well, she's like crazy stupid, though. I mean, it's like crazy stupid.
Yeah, well, she wouldn't be the first one.
Well, anyway, thank you for taking my call. Have a happy last 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. We got 3 more calls, but none of them are screened. So, do you want to say something, or I could talk about this awful movie I just watched?
Go for it.
I did take it upon myself to watch the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? And I don't know how many of you have heard about this, but it's really, really bad. I mean, it's like... It's some kind of new agey crap fake science, quantum mechanics. I mean, I always say that quantum mechanics there's a reason that it's the favorite science of like all these crackpots. It's because it's so difficult to explain and so vaguely understood even by people who study it that it's easy to twist it around and pretend that it says some stuff that it really doesn't. So this parade of pseudoscientists comes on and purports to explain quantum mechanics with just a tiny grain of truth in it. I mean, some stuff about, the particle wave duality, which is accurate, but then they go way off into left field and they say stuff like they cite this research which was supposedly done where people wrote words on vials of water, and the shape of the water would be influenced to look pretty or ugly based on what is written on the water. So if you wrote "I hate you," then it would crystallize in a way that looks ugly to researchers. And apparently, when I read more into the background of this stuff, they would write Hitler and it would look ugly, and it was like, wow, that's amazing. Water can not only read and sense emotions, but it actually has a pretty thorough grasp of Western history.
Yeah. Well, it's homeopathy, right? It has an amazing memory.
Right. And there was this story about how people see only things which they want to see, which is kind of true. I mean,
which is sort of like the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of an observed phenomenon anyway. But there was this story about how when Columbus's ships sailed to America, the shamans who were watching the water literally could not see the ships because they were so far outside their own experience. And of course, when we watched this movie, the first thing that we both jumped to is, how do they know that? How do they know that these shamans who didn't have a written language actually literally couldn't see the ships?
Good question.
And I went searching for it on the internet, and I found the official What the Bleep Do We Know webpage, which basically said, oh yeah, it was a story that we heard third hand, and it sounded cool. And it's so irresponsible that these people are pretending to teach other people science.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm going to be blogging about this, so keep an eye on one of the blogs, or Atheist Experience. And I guess we have time for a couple more calls, and we're going to go to Corey in, which one is MS?
Mississippi?
Is it Mississippi? Corey?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're on the air.
Hey guys. Hey Russell. Hey Tracie.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing good. I'm a black kid from Mississippi, atheist. I know that's kind of strange, but
not really. I mean, it's rare, but it's not strange.
Yeah, it's kind of rare. So, but I just want to know what you guys think in general. Some quick questions in general. Do you think that logic is winning in America? In just in general, or do you think religion kind of fighting back against it?
It's really hard to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no opinion on it.
I mean, it seems to ebb and flow, and sometimes it seems to be getting better, and sometimes it seems to be getting a lot worse.
I'm just very grateful for the courts.
Yeah.
My parents are supportive. I'm in my first year of school. My parents are supportive of me. I want to be a doctor. First year pre-med, and I tell them about evolution. And they get a little angry, but then they start to accept that they can turn away from it. I don't know what their thing on it, but they're kind of moderately religious.
I will say that science has gained a certain amount of respect even among people who 100 years ago would be fighting against it tooth and nail, to the point where at least religious people have to pretend that they believe in science, just like in What the Bleep Do They Know, in order to get some kind of perceived credibility for their New Age crap. They had to pretend, oh, this is what scientists really think.
Well, and I think there are a number of Christians today who actually do accept evolution, which I don't think would have been as common 100 years ago.
I just never understood. Of course, I used to believe in God when I was 12, but I never understood. I didn't know about evolution then, and now I understand it. I don't understand how you can be a Christian and believe. I mean, I just never understood how you could believe in Christianity and evolution at the same time. I just never understood that.
I think it's reasonable. I think you should read some stuff by that one guy. Shoot. Who was the guy in the trial who presented most of the compelling evidence? He is a Catholic.
In Dover?
Yeah, in Dover.
I know it wasn't the...
Ken Miller, thank you. Okay. We're going to have to move along. We got another call that we want to get to, and thanks for calling. And sorry, but we hate the new short show format, but we're working with it as much. Yeah, okay. The ACA voter guide is available at atheist-community.org. There you go, Mark.
Check it out.
This is probably going to be our last call. I'm sorry, Michael in Dublin. We only have like 2 or 3 minutes left to talk to you, and I wish you'd called earlier. But what's on your mind?
Well, basically, I've been watching you guys for about 2-3 years, and I was wondering why you focus so much on the negative aspects of religion when it has also helped people overcome alcoholism, etc. You claim you just as one-sided as the people you claim to be bashing, as far as I can see.
Because whatever good it does could be done without religion, and religion happens to come with a load of harmful baggage that we don't need to bring to the table. I think, in short, that would be my response, is that we should help. If I'm all for helping an alcoholic get better, but why do we have to teach him to believe in things that make no sense that can then also lead him to do things that make no sense?
Right. I mean, it's getting help from religion reminds me of somebody who says, "I got over my tobacco habit. Finally, I cope with the cravings by smoking crack instead."
If crack seems to be a fitting alternative for them, then why not just let them be?
I didn't catch
that.
I
couldn't understand that. Sorry.
If they want to smoke crack, why not just let them smoke crack? I'm a very, very, I think, liberal Christian.
Oh, we're not stopping anybody from believing whatever they want to believe and being as religious as they want.
We disagree
we're just expressing.
So you advocate smoking crack?
Do I advocate it? No.
Oh. Well, then.
And I don't advocate religion either. But I'm not going to physically force anybody not to be religious. I'm just simply expressing that it's very harmful, and that the harm that it does is unnecessary. And if we would just take the good things that it does, apply those good things, and take away all of the irrational crap that makes people do harmful, irrational things, I think we'd be in a better situation.
But if you don't disadvocate people taking drugs, then doesn't that make them do harmful things also?
I don't think Russell was advocating crack. I think he was comparing it to religion.
I'm saying that it's like replacing one addiction with another.
Right.
Right, but so you see religion as an addiction?
Well, yes.
In some ways.
In the sense that they're trading off something that they believe that it's irrational. If you can make somebody believe absurd...
Pseudo-intellectualism an addiction? Because you seem to be pretty addicted yourself.
Intellectualism?
You know, pseudo-intellectualism, because we're addicted to that. And I would really like to keep responding to you, but we are seriously out of time. Is that going to look like I was running away?
I don't know. I couldn't really understand much. It wasn't his fault.
I deny being a pseudo-intellectualist. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'm just talking about reality.
Okay. And thank you, everybody. See you at Threadgills. And it's been a good show. I hope I'm ending it at about the right time. I guess I got a few seconds left.
Well, they're running credits, so.
Right. Okay. Always good to be with you, Tracie. And tune in next week for more abridged atheistic fun.
Okay.